Living on a boat, you need to be organised. I have my blue bag on the back of the door handle, and in that blue bag has everything I need for the boat. So it's got all the keys, it's got the lanyard for the motor, the car boat motor, and so I can just, and it's all waterproof bag, so I'll pop everything in there and I keep it hanging on the back of the door so I know where it is. When you want to get water for your boat, well, if you want convenience, living on a boat isn't going to be it. When we live on land and we have our water, we just, turn on the tap and voila, there it is. And sometimes we might choose to filter it, put it through a filter, or sometimes we might even have a built-in filter in our plumbing, in our sink. I certainly had that in the last house I was in. On a boat, you've got a few options. One option is doing what I'm doing here, is pouring water in and putting them. We've got 2 tanks, I think about 240 litres each. 2 tanks underneath the the port side hold, and keeping those tanks full is almost a daily job. And keeping the tanks full for more than one reason. One of the reasons is to keep the boat on an even keel, because if the tanks are empty, and she tends to list to the starboard side, because all the kitchen, the bathroom, and there's a bunkhouse on the starboard side, so it's a lot heavier on that side. So I need to go and get water. Another option to get water is to have a rainwater harvesting system on your boat with gutters and downpipes into the tanks, which is definitely on the cards and something that I will be doing in the not too distant future, and having that as an optional water collector thing, which when we've got the rain, and then I won't need to do this quite so often. And the third option is to have a desalination unit on board. So that's definitely the long-term option, and of the things that I want to do to keep a decent water supply on the boat. So right now, if I want water, I've got to work for it. As you can see, I've got to put those jugs. There's 4 10-litre jugs and 1 20-litre jug. There we did have 2 20-litre jugs, and one of them went when we got beached in the storm. So we just got the 4 10-litre ones, which are fairly easy to manage. The 20-litre one is a bit heavy, but that's what we've got. So we do them probably at least once a day when I'm here, and sometimes twice a day if I've got other people here as well, to keep the water up, the water supply up, and also to keep the boat balanced. So you can see me there heading away from a Dare to Dream and to the jetty. I'm coming in now into docking at the jetty where I get the water. Thankfully there is a tap on board, on the jetty. We'll just tie her off there. Front and back so it doesn't drift out. Today's a fairly calm day. Sometimes when there's southerlies blowing or easterlies blowing, anything over 15 knots gets quite uncomfortable, and you feel like you're on a mechanical bull in a local hotel. It can be quite rocky. When there's southerlies blowing, sometimes we'll go underneath the jetty to get the water, because it's calm there. The jetty protects the water a bit from the direct wind, and if there's westerlies blowing, It's usually come on this side because I'm on the eastern side of the jetty at the moment. One of the important things about living on a boat, it's probably the most important, and I mentioned before about having the blue bag, is having a system. And you have to follow that system, and anyone who is with you gets to learn that system as well, because if it's not done properly and not done the same time every time, we end up in all sorts of trouble. As you can see there, I've just put the hose, attached the hose to the tap at the jetty. So it's a bit of up and down, and now just turning the hose on. We use a brass tap. You get one there. Actually, don't keep the taps on the jetty, like the turn things on the tap on the. I'm not even sure what they're called. On the where you turn the tap on. They don't keep those on the jetty for people to often turn the taps on and leave them running, but so we have to go and buy them, and we have two, so have a redundancy in case we lose one.
Turn that off and do a time lapse.
And we also were using a plastic connection from the hose to connect to the tap, but we ended up getting a brass one there, as you can see, because the hose, the plastic ones tend to wear and break very, very easily. And so that we've had the brass one now for a while, and that seems to work okay. So the hose goes back neatly every single time, and there is a solid bag, shopping bag that I keep it in. We were keeping it in a Coles or a Woolworths bag, and we go through those. They get holes in them and they'd wear, and it was just so we just ended up getting one of those bags, those shopping bags, and it seems to last quite well. We've got the tap tied onto the handle of the bag, the tap, so the turner on a thing, and which is really good because that way we know the whole system, water system there, is all in one. So the hose and the tap and the bag for the hose, it's all there all in one. As you can see me there starting the little Parson, the 5 horsepower outboard that we have on the car boat, taking off the back ropes and the front ropes. There's a system there too. It's always start the motor first, back rope, then front rope. You get into all sorts of trouble if you don't follow the system. So now moving away from the jetty back to the houseboat. It's probably about maybe 50 metres from the jetty, maybe a little bit more, 50-60 metres from the jetty. And then coming in to dock at the side of the houseboat. You can see there we've also got a pair of oars in case the outboard motor fails, can't get it started. Oars are quite handy for that. So now just hooking on the front, and it's always the same in reverse. So we do the front first and then the back, and then turn off the motor. But right now I'm just putting in the water. There we go. Bugger those water jugs. So they go in the side door. I call it the garage door because the car boat goes next to the houseboat on the garage side. And now the water comes out the back. We still have got an inlet at the front of the boat, but now it was too hard to get to, so we have had an inlet put in at the back of the boat, and now we do this jug by jug. We decant the water into the inlet. So there's a couple of ways you can do this as well. We started by putting little taps on the bottom of the water jugs there. You can see the little black dot down there at the bottom of that one. That's where you can put a tap and you can decant it that way. But we find it's quicker and easier to do it with a hose, and we have a hose that we use specifically for that. And here's that system again, just putting the keys to the inlet cap away where they belong straight away immediately after I finished using them, because if you don't, they end up anywhere and you can never find them again. So now the empty jugs go back into the car boat, and you can see there that the buffer or the bumper on the starboard side of the boat has gone. It used to have a little rubber thing over it, and you can see that the fender there, that white fender I'm holding onto, they are supposed to stop the car boat from knocking against the houseboat, and they do a reasonably good job, but sometimes it just there's just a bit too sharp. You can see there on the side of the boat where the car boat's bitten into the houseboat. So now what we do is we use the side door to go in and out with what we need to take in and off the boat, and when we're finished, you can see there, I just tie it to the back on that little stump there, and we're done. I need a nap now.